Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Pixel Journey. This is going to be the start of the Spooky Month review little mini series. So for the month of October, all of the games will be classified as some type of like horror or scary games. And the first one is Revelatio. So Revelatio, I was given a Steam review code by Minimap to review this game for them. So thank you so much Minimap for making this video possible. Revelatio is a bit of a confusing thing for me to explain to people. So it is a roguelite. It is a tile-based strategy game. It's very dark. The atmosphere is very demonic almost. You are fighting for the side of evil and darkness. You have been corrupted, and the entirety of the game is you fighting the side of the good, the holy, and you're trying to defeat the big bosses of each phase, essentially. So each run will start off with you having access to 4 different characters, and you will be placing them on the left side of a 3x6 grid, and you will basically just try and kill all the enemies that are on the right side. Now, my biggest tip is to keep track and memorize the attack patterns and movement abilities of each of the enemy types. There's not too many, at least in the chapter 1 section, so it will be pretty easy, and you will be dying a lot because it is a roguelite, so it should come pretty naturally to you. Now, some will have different abilities, and obviously all of them will have unique attributes to them. Now, there are characters like the nun who will need to take a first initial hit before they will start taking damage or losing any faith, and they also have a pretty big range of where they can hit. There's also archers that of course can hit across the board. There's also different types of soldiers that you will have to look out for. Most of the time those have a pretty tight one tile away from them hitbox. So it really just depends on how you set up your strategy for your own troops. Now this is based off of a speed system on who goes when, so you will have to keep track of stuff like how fast are your units compared to the enemies, how much health your units have, and how much damage your units have. All of these go into the strategy side, and that honestly made it a lot more fun for me once I got down the basics of the game. Now, when we start getting into the tricky, more strategic parts is when we get into your resources. You will have 2 main resources to keep track of, one being mana and the other being dark essence. Now, you will start off with a base amount of 50 mana per each fight. The cost of mana to deploy a unit in round 1 of each fight is cut in half, so make sure that you pay attention to that, because after the first round, they will double. Some units will even cost 1 dark essence, and all of the skills that you have will cost at least 2 or more. Now, mana regens after each round of the fight, while dark essence is something that you can collect only after you've completed a fight. Now, when it comes to dark essence, you only start out with 3, and I would honestly just save those until you get up enough to corrupt an enemy to turn them to your side. So, like I said, you only start out with 4 characters in the beginning, and you will be losing them, and it's permadeath for the route. So, what do? You actually can gain enemies to fight for your side if you corrupt their faith. Now, each unit will have a set amount of faith, showcased by a little icon at the top of their head, and this is something that you will have to watch for your own units, or try and deplete of enemy units if you want to take them onto your side. You do have a corruption skill that will hit anything for -1 faith, and typically that is your most consistent way of lowering faith, and my preferred route. I actually tend to save up a bunch of dark essence until I can corrupt 1 or 2, because trust me, you will be losing 1 or 2 of your people, either to death or corruption on they start to fight for the good and holy side. Now, at the moment, there are 2 chapters out. It is in early access at the moment, but there will be a release of chapter 3 along with the full release of the title, and all of them so far seem to work in a similar fashion. You will go through 1 path, and once you defeat the big boss, you will have 2 more paths to complete before you finish a chapter. Now, there are different rooms that you can go into. Obviously, as a roguelite, you can pick kind of, in a way, your route if it does deviate from a set path. Most of them will be enemy rooms where you will go about fighting, but you will have some others that will give you some buffs. The baptism room will allow you to add some kind of buff, including increased health, speed, or attack power. There will be stigmata rooms that will give them different abilities. This might include being able to place the unit anywhere on the map instead of just on your select amount of tiles, being able to heal after attacking, or even when deployed, healing those around them. Now, for the most part, until we get to the Divine Halt, where I'll go a bit more into it, these buffs are only for that select route. They will be gone once you start a new run. You will essentially keep going through until you fight the big boss, and once again, just like all the other enemies, the big boss will sometimes have minions, but they will both have their own select, unique style of attacking and moving. One tip that I found out very early and was very helpful for me: you only need to defeat the big boss of these stages, you don't need to defeat all of the minions too. Now, essentially that's it for the route pathing and all the fighting, but the really nice part is what comes with the upgrades. So like I said, there is a Divine Hall, and this activates at the end of a path. Once you have finished it or died, you'll be able to select one unit that you have been fighting with throughout that specific run. Once you've sent them into the Divine Hall, they will keep all of the buffs or upgrades that they have gotten throughout that specific run, and you'll be able to select them to be one of the 4 units that you start out with on your next one. Do keep in mind that these don't upgrade a unit, so if you have a specific nun that you've been working with and you get her a few good upgrades, you need to resend her to the Divine Hall in order to keep those upgrades. Now, one of the upgrades that are my favorite is in the actual upgrade page. You can find this page in the Sanctum section of the main menu, and it will come in 2 different pages. The first will be just straight up upgrades. Now, you will get the currency for these upgrades after each run. I highly suggest filling out this page, buying everything before you start moving on to the second page. These will give you permanent upgrades, like starting out with more mana, starting out with more Dark Essence, and unlocking different abilities such as reviving faith that has been lost throughout a run, and also unlocking different abilities that you can get, like in stigmatas. Once you have unlocked everything there, you can really start to go further in your runs. I was pretty locked at I couldn't defeat chapter 1, but after I got all these unlocked, I was able to get to the final boss of chapter 2. Still haven't been able to beat them, but I get pretty close. And that's the last stage that is available to me in early access at the moment. Now, once you're done with that, you can move on to the second page, and this is where you can unlock the different modes. So the modes, they all work the same in terms of fighting, but the difference is they give you different skill sets. You can unlock little buffs in between them, but I find that these don't make a huge difference, especially compared to the upgrade page. But if you're looking to spice something up, maybe you've done enough runs with the original skill set and you want to change it, you can go to the 2 other options and see if you like those better. This game was very challenging for me, and I was very lost in the beginning, but once you get a few rounds into it and you figure out how everything works, it actually gets a lot more, I don't want to say simplistic because you still have to strategize, but it's easier to understand. I found myself thinking of different strategies when I was away from the game, and so that made me really eager to come back and try them to see if they would work. Now, because this is a roguelite, you will be facing different enemy arrangements, but the types of enemies stay the same and the bosses of course stay the same. So you might not be able to execute the exact thing in your mind, but you can probably get pretty close. I think that this is a great game for October, and I really think that even if you're not completely sold on it, you should at least wishlist this game on Steam and maybe watch some other stuff. This is a very recent release from an indie dev and publisher. They are actually the same people, Guild Studio, that did everything. And so I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about this, but I do hope that more people will get into it and at least start wishlisting this and looking a bit more into this game. I do plan on doing some shorts on the channel in order to maybe help people who are a bit confused, because this game honestly just started out is a bit confusing. But to end off, my biggest tips are save your Dark Essence for your corruption skill. Only target the boss for the fights unless you absolutely have to take out the minions. And try to focus on getting as many upgrades as you can before trying to beat chapter 1. Those, of course, are for a more casual player, which is what I am, but due to these buffs and upgrades being completely optional, you can essentially make this as hard or as easy as you yourself want it. If you are someone who loves like Dark Souls style games, challenging, really intense, you actually don't have to upgrade anything. But if you're someone like me, who does need some help and kind of struggles with some of the tougher games just due to not being great at strategy quite yet, you can make it more simple with these upgrades. I believe that's about all I have to say for this game. I really enjoyed my time with it after I got over the hurdle of figuring out how exactly to play it. But I hope that if you've watched the whole video that you have hopefully gotten a pretty decent grasp of what this game has to offer, and if you do enjoy it, wishlist it, and maybe go ahead and buy it, because I feel like October's the perfect month to try this game out. Thank you for everyone who stuck through this video. I hope you got something out of it, and if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up to let me know that I did a good job. And if you look around the channel and like what you see, maybe think about giving me a subscribe so you don't lose me to the wave of YouTube content. Well, that's all for me for today. I hope that you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you in a future video. Bye, guys!